Welcome to this week's Contemporary Halacha Shir. It is entitled Breakaway Minyanim, and it's connected, as we always try to do, to this week's Parsha, Parsha's Truma. This week's Parsha deals with the Mishkan. V'osu li migdosh v'shochanti b'seicham. And we know that our shuls are a miniature Beis HaMikdash, or a miniature Migdosh, and it's an opportunity to talk about something related to shuls, and Breakaway Minyanim, starting a new shul, is a fascinating topic. And essentially, I'm going to go through a tshuva of the Minchas Osher and try and present it today. So, the background is the question that was put to the Minchas Osher in Chelek Gimel Siman Hey. If you're listening online, please do email me at j.golker@gmail.com. I'll send you the handout. This is box number 2. So this is the question that was put to him. You asked my opinion. Be'inyan kavutzas mispallim, there was a group of people davening. She'echlita lifresh min hakehila vasika. They wanted to break away from the established minyan they were at. Beroshas harav, under the auspices of the rav of that shul. Ulahakim beis knesses mishalohem, and they wanted to start a new shul. B'merchak lo gad mi beis haknesses havosik, not far away from the old shul. Rav HaKehila Havasika Misnagid B'Toikef LePrishasam. The Rav of the shul, from where they want to break away from, is opposing it strongly. B'Taina, and his claim is Shehadov Yachlish Es HaKehila. It will weaken his Kehila. Uve'ikveisehem Yifrushim Mispalin Noisofim. And then, apart from the core Chevra who want to leave to start this new shul, others will join. U'B'Soife Shel Davar Tichalish HaKehila. Ad kadei hispirus, that eventually the kid will become so weak it might disband. Hakvutza hanal to'enes, that the group that want to break away argue. Shechlitu lifresh, they wanted to move. Kadei liyaset kehila toiranis yoyse imruach tzeira. They wanted to have a more Toradic type of community with a younger spirit. Prishasam tavi lechizuk hakila, and they argue that doing so will be mechazik the kehila, this new kehila. V'kina seifrim tar bechachma. It's a positive type of jealousy, competition, a positive competition. So it's not that's the question that was put to Rabbi Weiss, and of course this is something that you see, in all Jewish communities, certainly communities that are growing, leaving established shuls and starting new minyanim. How does halacha look at this? So, as Rabbi Weiss, he cites the Magen Avraham, who says that it's a machlekas. And he says, I haven't got this on the sheet, this particular bit, but he says the following. There's a machlekas, whether or not you're allowed to abandon or leave a shul and start a new one. He quotes the Rivash in 2 tshuvas. The zuchus hamiyut lifresh, that the minority, the small group that wants to break away and start a new minyan, they're entitled to. V'hamonea mehem, and those who try and prevent them, livnos beis knesses misholem kamonea sarab milasas mitzvah. You're preventing, a group of Jews from trying to do a mitzvah, and so too that is the view of the Radvaz. And essentially, he presents 4 reasons in other words, 4 reasons why it's actually okay to break away from a shul. Here are the 4 reasons. This is now back on my sheet, paragraph 3a. Kivan, Aleph, Kivan she'ein daitum noicha mibeis haknesses hakayim. Since this group are not happy in their existing shul, ein mispalim b'mokum she'ein daitum yusheves. You can't daven in a shul where you're unhappy. Umachshav teitruda, and you're bothered the whole time. You don't want to be there. You want to start this new shul. So to impose upon you to daven in the shul where you don't really want to be, it's going to disturb your davening. You can't really daven well. Base, that's one reason. 2. Interesting. With regard to limut ha-Torah, it's well known that you can only learn in a place or a type of learning that libei chofetz, that you're drawn towards. So too with regard to tefillah. So that has application, for example, that when a boy wants to go off to yeshiva and he is drawn to a particular type of yeshiva, a particular Rosh Yeshiva, and the parents, let's say, don't want him to go to that yeshiva. So when push comes to shove, the boy does have the right. It's a whole shir in its own right. We've actually, I think, given a shir on this in the past. But there is this concept of Ein Adam Lo Meid El B'Mokum Shel B'Chofetz. Well, so too, says Rabbi Weiss, it applies to tefillah. That's one of the arguments of the Rivash and the Radvaz. 3rd argument, Kasher Halavovos Chalukim, when there is a dispute in shul, people have got different opinions. Ein Kilus and Oliyafa, it's not going to create an environment where the tefillah is going to be accepted in that particular shul. There's machlekas. And daled, k'dei limnei machlekas u'modern odif sheyifreshu v'yispalu la'atzmam. And to prevent this machlekas from proliferating, then it's better they actually do break away and they start their new shul, and hopefully peace will ensue. So those are the 4 reasons that the Minchas Osher brings from the Rivash and the Radvaz why it's okay to break away. But then he brings those arguments against it. And primarily he's quoting Rabbi Eliyahu Mizrahi. If you take a look at paragraph 3b, he says 2 reasons why it should not be allowed. Aleph, this is in box 3b, the first box there. Hapirut shenifradu mehem miut hakahal sheloi kedin osu. The breakaway of a small minority to start a shul is not halachically acceptable. Mashe osu hari lohem limoshech acharov der sakahal. They should follow the majority. If the majority are happy and want to stay in that shul with that rov, and a minority want to break away, they should submit to the majority. Last week said Pashas Mishpatim has the famous phrase, Achrei Rabim lahatos. You go after the majority. It's a Jewish concept in certain contexts, and therefore they should follow the majority who want to stay put. And base also lemiut lifresh in beis hakneses mishum de bekach misbatel inyan bereiv am hadras melech. Essentially, if they're breaking away and you're having smaller minyanim, you're diluting the concept of bereiv am hadras melech. When you've got a large amount of people davening together, that creates a certain hidur, a certain beauty to the tefillah. So those are the reasons for and against. Now, then the Minchas Osher brings the tshuva of Rav Moshe. And this is what he says. This is in the box just before paragraph 4. Excuse me. The Vachal Shuvah Sikras Moshe, Don Berav Echad, he discusses the case of one particular Rav, Shebon Beis HaKnesses, he built a shul, La'ach Kamashanim Rotzu Chaluk, Chelek, Me'amispalim Lifresh V'Lahokim Lohem Beis Knesses Mishalohem. A Rav built a shul, a new community, and then after some years, a group of that shul wanted to break away and start a new minyan. But Taina Shaharav Shino Es Nusach HaTfilah V'Hanigunim L'Meiras Rucham. By their argument was that the nusach has been changed by the Rav, and they were doing new tunes, and it was against their will. That was the reason why they wanted to break away. V'Harav Toan She'em Yifreshu to kupach parnasosai, if they do break away, his parnasa will be in jeopardy. Shebeseses al beis hakneses v'gam shav beis hakneses yuzul moed, and not only that, it will sort of cause the slide of the shul into who knows where, and the value of the actual shul will go down. In other words, I guess that means the property of the community of the center itself. And in the conclusion, Rav Moshe favored the taina of the Rav. And Rav Moshe invokes an interesting concept. There's a concept of yored le'umnas chavera, which means you're treading on somebody's toes when it comes to parnasa. So if there's a whole discussion, it's a separate share in its own right, where you've got a certain business and then you want to open up a new business in competition, is that allowed? So that's the whole discussion. But the concept generally it's not allowed. You're not allowed to be yored le'umnas chavera. You can't jeopardize somebody else's parnasa. And essentially that's what these people are trying to do. The Rav's parnasa, the community center, the shul that he's built, is going to be in jeopardy. So he favored the Rav. Now, the Minchas Osher, Dayan Weiss, he takes issue with Rav Moshe, and he says the following. Look at bottom, paragraph 4, the bottom there. V'chol zeh tamua, says Rav Osher Weiss, this is perplexing be'inai. Te'eich nuchel lichbos al anoshim lispal b'mokim she'en libem chofetz. How can you force someone to daven in a place where they don't want to be there? They're not drawn to it. And I don't understand the analogy, the concept being applied by Rav Moshe here of Yerid Lumnis Chaverei. Can you force? Is the Torah able to force people to shop in shop A and not in shop B? The whole issa of Yerid Lumnis Chaverei is a din in the balabas, the owner of the shop, not the lekuchos, not the purchasers. And here, the people here who want to go to a different shul, they've got the status of loichim, of purchasers. They've chosen to go and buy and shop and daven in our case in a different place. So the Umnas Chavera is really a person who sort of opens a new shop next to the existing shop. But if the purchasers choose to shop there, that's not a problem. So too over here, they're lukuches. They want to shop in a different shul. That's their right. And furthermore, final paragraph on this page, harav she'erech beis hakneses yered, that the value of the shul, of the actual building, I think, will actually go down, will decrease in value, ekev precious chelek min mispalim, because it become less of an attractive shul, less of a vibrant shul, and therefore the actual value will go down. That's not a taina. It's like, a neighbor says his neighbor's moving out. So he tied us, how can you move out? Because you're a very important person, you're a very prestigious person, and therefore the value of the houses on our street, if you move out, are going to go down. That's not a taina. You can't stop him from moving. Is there an offer for this person to move? Atma. So Rav Weiss takes issue with the Ramesha and doesn't agree with the application of Yerid le'umnus chavera, because he says that applies to the balabais itself, the balachanus itself, not to the lukuches. Here, these people are lukuches. And second of all, to say that it's going to sort of detract the value of my shul, that's not a reason for you not to move. If I live in number 1 High Street and my neighbor wants to move, I can't tell him to not move because it's going to decrease the value of the street. If he wants to move, he can move. And then the Minchas Osha quotes from the Chavetz Chaim. This is a Chavetz Chaim in Shatzion. Here, take a look at box number 5. Void mevuasham b'shatzion. This is Sivkot and Gimel. The Megimel Tam Nochen Shelo Yischalku. The Chavetz Chaim brings 3 reasons in his Shatzion on Mishnah Berurah why they should not, a group should not break away. Number 1, Berevam Hadras Melech, which was one of the reasons of Eliyahu Mizrahi, that it's the more people that daven in the same place, the more of a hidur it is. Beis Mishum Hefsid Hachnasos Lebeis Haknes Sorishain, that if you've got one shul, then there'll be one electricity bill, one heating bill, one security bill, one janitor, one caretaker bill. But if you've got 2 or 3 or 4 shuls, you're adding expenses, the economies of scale to go with just one shul. And Gimel, Mishum Talmud Torah Derabim v'Chadayma, if the Talmud Torah of Derabim is more effective. So the Chavetz, the Minchas Osha does bring that. He does then bring another tshuva of Rav Moshe, who actually comes to a different conclusion to the one he came earlier. And of course, the facts must have been different. There, they were talking about a certain Rav, and he had built the shul, and he was worried about losing his parnasa, and the shul's value deteriorating, etc. But now he brings another Ramesha with a different response. If you take a look in paragraph 6, this is he quotes the Igros Moshe in Arachaim Chelik Aleph Siman Lamed Aleph and Chelik Beis Siman Mem Vav. Kosev, he says there that Ramesha writes the Odushes Chalku Mishum Gimel Tamim. There, in some situations, there are reasons where it's better to break away, and he gives 3 reasons. Number 1, Aleph, if you have more minyanim, you're actually going to increase the number of people davening with the minyan. Because if there's one shul in town and it's a bit too far away, people might not make the effort to go to that far away shul. If there are other shuls a bit more close by, then more people are likely to go. Base, you're increasing the number of Migdashim Ma'at, of little shuls, of mini base hamedrashes, mini base hamikdashes, and number 1, and also you're just increasing Kedusha generally. When I grew up here in Golders Green, there were not that many shuls. I remember, there was Dunstan Road at the far end, the United Synagogue shul, then there was Munks, and then there was Reb Chunas and Hagas, and then there was Hen Adas and Rani Close. Not that many shuls. Now, Baruch Hashem, you go down Golders Green Road on Shabbos, there are dozens of shuls, and so too in Hendon. And therefore, says Rav Moshe, the Kedusha has increased. And Gimel, Mishum Dekina Soifrim Tarbe Chachma. It's a positive type of kina, which is Tarbe Chachma. And therefore, in that tshuva, Rav Moshe gives 3 reasons why it's okay to break away. Now, what is the conclusion? So, of course, it's a sensitive topic often. And one has to ask Das Torah, and I know of a certain Rav who started a shul here, and he went to the senior Rabbonim in town before he got Rishus, before he opened up his shul. But one has to consult. But this is the maskon of Rabbi Asher Weiss. This is at the end of the tshuva, and this is in paragraph 7 on the handout. Be'emes, shleishes hatam halalu moikchi hametzias hema. Sometimes these arguments, they're not always the mitzias. They're not always the actual, applicable to the facts on the ground. Sometimes it's a tremendous chizuk when the new shuls do emerge. When there is not going to be an increase in kvod shemayim as a result of this breakaway. If he's going to just increase machloikus and arguments, then of course it's not appropriate. When there's a kinus, a gathering of tzaddikim, it's good for them and it's good for the world. And the more people together will create more of a hidur for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. However, very poetic style. If the machloikus has sort of grabbed onto the corners of the mizbeach, and it's going to cause to hatred amongst brothers, amongst Chal Yisrael, v'chil Shem Shemaim, and chas v'shalom v'chil Hashem, mutav she'yispardu v'kol echad yifnei ledarkei. By staying together in the same shul where there's going to be machlekas and there's going to be arguments and sinas chinam, better people go their own ways. Im hayimin v'asmina v'masmol v'ayimina, like we have with Avram and Lot. V'emes v'hashalom ehavu. But of course, the primary consideration is that emes and shalom should love each other. V'birchas hashalom oshavais. So a very interesting tshuva. An old machlekas, arguments for, arguments against, depends very much on the facts on the ground. And some of the arguments of Ramosha, the Minchas Osha questions, some of them he really does bring in the other tshuvas, the of Ramosha and the Chavetz Chaim. But really one has to take guidance on this important matter. But it depends very much on the facts of the case. Is it going to increase Shalom and Berevam Hadras Melech, or the opposite? And I guess the Rabbanim will have to guide each group accordingly.